they are not raising problems, but they are coming up with solutions. And I think for us as a government that cares and listens to them, and in terms of how we approach public transport in general, the centrality of the commuters is paramount. So meaning that the programs that the department has come up with does include issues of training the taxi industry to improve in customer care and ensuring that they receive the required level of training so that they are able to really run these public transport services in a manner that meets the needs of our people. And this government and the minister, I think, has been quite clear in the priority he's giving to public transport. I think for the Department of Transport, it's like to say that public transport must come first, because with it, the result of it would ensure that our people arrive in time at their workplaces, but also the taxi industry grows and is able to participate in the other transport services as part of the buses, as part of the rail. Because you know the invitation, the call for new buses to be deployed in areas where the model of BRT would not necessarily be relevant should be attractive not only to bus owners. And I think it should be attractive to taxi owners themselves, because who said taxi owners cannot own buses? No one. There's no rule which says taxi business people can only participate in taxi business. But they are part of the public transport providers.
Right.
Meaning that there is nothing stopping them from investing in buses, as an example.
Right. Yes. 0800 314 446. That's 0800 314 446. It's a toll-free number if you're going to be calling us from a landline. Otherwise, we're available on Facebook, the South African government on Facebook, and we're streaming this conversation live as it happens. And thank you so much to everybody that's taking part in terms of their comments at DTG. I'm actually looking at them as you see me pulling my phone. I'm actually checking some of the comments that are coming from the listeners. And we're also available on WhatsApp. The WhatsApp number is 066 224 2188, 066 224 2188. If you want to interact with us in those three platforms, we'll be very delighted to have you interact with us. All right. Let's now focus on issues that's got to do with two sectors, and these are the following. One is I'm very passionate about, and I think the last time you and I spoke, I said this to you. The one is the one that you are passionate about, which I'm passionate about as well. We're talking about aviation and maritime, but I would like us to put more focus on maritime, which is something that you're focusing on. Now, DGG, tell me, with regards to exposing this sector to the black community, a lot of people are saying, look, taxi like we have now, we spend a bit of time on that. A lot of people are exposed to that, especially black people are exposed to the taxi industry. But here's a sectors that you don't necessarily find a lot of black people in. Maritime and aviation. What is the department's plan to actually introduce this sector to the black community, for instance?
Yes. The program of government, I think, has reached a point where, it's not for the first time, but in Parliament, there is already a deep engagement and debate around maritime-related issues. I think it's a new issue which has not in the past really characterized the debates in Parliament. So this is a reflection that the investments that a government has put into the maritime sector are bearing fruit in terms of conscientization of the decision makers. The cabinet already is well convinced that maritime sector is a critical growth point, because remember that this country is a coastal country.
Yeah.
Our goods were dependent on the sea. Our goods imports and exports come and leave through our ports, 8 commercial ports. Now, prior 1994, there was no maritime policy for the Republic of South Africa. So technically, those that have written the history of the country and they have referred to 1652 all of us have studied history at schools level, and there's a reference to 1650. So since that date, this country has never had a maritime policy. But fast forward, 1996, there were pronouncements in the white paper on transport policy, and it referred to the actions that need to be taken to advance the maritime agenda. Fast forward, it's only in 2017 that the government, in response to the National Development Plan, resolved and adopted a comprehensive maritime transport policy for the Republic. In the debate this afternoon, the minister spoke about the comprehensive maritime transport policy.
Yeah.
The deputy minister said it's going to lead us in terms of defining what needs to be done to transform the sector. And another member of parliament referred to the policy and in effect articulated one of the key strategic objectives of the comprehensive maritime transport policy, that of developing South Africa to be an international maritime center. So that is a major breakthrough, because from Parliament now it's quite clear that the country has once again restated its commitment to fast track and implement the CMTP. The minister referred to in previous public pronouncements that this year is the year for accelerating the implementation of that policy. And what does it mean? Today, a very good demonstration. We had for the very first time a female who is a boat builder who comes from this part of the country. Yes, Miss Kandra Shanice Pedro, who is the first boat builder. Now, if the listeners could just understand that in this, South Africa is ranked number 2 in the world for the manufacture of the luxury yachts.
South Africa
is. After France, South Africa comes number 2. So the boat building sector is as a trend setter globally.
Yeah.
So, but in the history of this country, this is the first woman to be a boat builder. Now, so that tells you that although we have a long way to go, but we have resolved one critical issue, because you may have a long way to go, but if it's not clear as to what do you want to become, it'll become a problem.
Yeah.
Now, the comprehensive maritime transport says, it defines for us. South Africa, at the moment, our import and export are carried by foreign vessels. In the debate this afternoon, there was a call for the establishment of a national shipping company.
Okay.
And when listeners should not confuse and think that, here is again we're talking of SAA. No, that's not that model. Remember that with shipping you require huge investments. But for a national shipping company to exist for any country, there are boxes that you need to tick. Firstly, do you have cargo? Now South Africa has cargo. All right. Do you have policies, maritime policies? We do have maritime policies. So, because if you have to have a national company, it will then mean that South Africa, when we are selling our commodities, be it the coal, and the other ores and other iron ores, those would have to be shipped using South African shipping companies. At the moment, when buyers of our commodities buy these commodities, whether, for instance, there are orders from India or China of our coal, the purchasers of those commodities dictate on what shipping company would move those cargoes.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because South Africa does not have a national shipping company. So and that's what the policy says we need to create, and that's what we have to put our efforts in developing in the country. That's just one area.
Yeah.
But the second area speaks to coastal shipping. And I think in the debate this afternoon, there was reference to one of the plans we have in our APP this year to develop a coastal shipping agreement with our SADC states. Because remember, in SADC, I think we are having up to about 7 coastal countries, if I count the islands around the southern coast of Africa. Now, developing a coastal shipping agreement is a major step that we need to take in developing coastal shipping. This would close the current gap that exists in that foreign vessels coming into South Africa, they don't only offload goods, whether in the port of Durban or Cape Town, but they also do coastal shipping.
Right.
And coastal shipping for South Africans, besides it creating jobs and growing our economy, but it will also help to deal with the large trucks on our road who destroy our roads, who cause the accident, who will get involved in accidents. And so it will solve quite a number of other problems without it really developing South Africa to be an international maritime center, which the Comprehensive Maritime Transport Policy says we need to develop.
All right. 0800 314 446 0800 314 446. It's a toll-free number if you're going to be calling from a landline. I'm going to try to get that caller back again. It was Spusiso from Mamelodi. I believe Spusiso had a question. As soon as he's available, we'll patch him through. We're available also on YouTube. My producers just informed me that we're on YouTube as well, and it's the Department of Transport's phone-in program this evening that we're making available on these platforms. All right. In the past, you would just have us just on your radio. This time around, if you happen to be outside a place where there's a radio station perhaps to listen to, you can still listen to us by logging onto YouTube and search for Government ZA on YouTube. That's Government ZA on YouTube. We're available there, and we'll be happy to have your question or comments as they come through. And thank you so much to all those who want to participate as well via WhatsApp 066 224 2188. Let's take that caller quickly. I believe we have that caller back on the line. Is it Spusiso from Mamelodi? Good evening to you, caller. Okay, I don't think we have that caller already, so we'll just move on to with our conversation. 0800 314 446 toll free from a landline. It's gone 4 minutes after the hour, 7 o'clock. It's amazing how time flies, really, when you discuss these type of issues, especially with information coming your way. Let's talk about the cooperation between government departments and the Department of Transport when it comes to maritime education. Are we seeing that happening? Are you perhaps collaborating? Is the department collaborating, DDG, with, say, for instance, the Department of Basic Education, where I believe perhaps these should be started? At the time, we did not even know. They are there. We're not even part of that. But now, are we going to integrate what we're trying to do right now with the education system, even from grassroots level?
Yes. I think, first of all, I need to say here when on education that indeed one of the critical pillars to grow the maritime sector is education. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, education in the maritime sector, beside it being classroom education, it has to start out there. Because remember that the skills that we are developing are skills of people to work on board ships as engineers or as deck officers. Mm. Now, if they would end up working on a ship, so they would require that in addition to their theoretical training, but they also obtain practical training. Mm-hmm. Now, we are dependent on ships for cadets to fully qualify. Yeah. Now, for the fact that we don't have ship currently, so it means that we have to go to international companies to beg, to appeal if they cannot, take our cadets. So it's that then they're not going to qualify. And in actual fact, we are currently experiencing that situation.
Oh, yeah.
And then this motivates further for the need to have, if we're a coastal state, to have a national shipping company. Because all other countries, you can go to India, you can go to China, you can go to Indonesia, and many other countries, they developed on the backbone of their national shipping company. Now, what is currently then happening is that we are introducing young people into sailing. Okay, before they do their theoretical education, they practically get involved in working on water. As sailing, the boats without engine power, but they use sail. Yes. So we are getting younger people to develop interest
in that. Yeah.
Because we realize that of those that we have trained, some of them actually have dropped out of the industry because they went through theoretical education only to realize that, am I going to work on a boat? Then that's only when they feel, this is not for me. So that then made us. That made us to say. But I think it's a fair thing. But we're also then trying to deal with this wrong perception.
Yes.
That if I can talk about Africans, that there is a perception, and it does not come from Africans themselves. This perception says black people don't like water. You know what?
Yeah.
And that is not true.
It's not.
It's not. It's part of apartheid
mentality.
Yeah. Because remember that many of us sisakhula besikhuluma besibhukuda emadamini sishaya idadamu. Now, how come now is there an expression that we don't like water? Because the reason why we ended not swimming continuously in our lifetime is because we still lokishini, and there were no swimming pools. Remember, you had to share. You had to share, one swimming pool for the whole of the township. Now, today, do we have all? If I could check again, maybe all of our white compatriots, do they all know how to swim? No, it's not true.
Yes.
So this is a wrong apartheid-inspired perception. And in actual fact, this is now being dispelled. Because if I could just share with you that there is work we are doing with the Royal Yacht Academy here in Cape Town, which is run by a very vibrant man, a young man, Lindani Mchunu, who is running the club. He has sailed throughout the world as part of the boat building industry, as I was referring earlier on, in us being number 2. So they manufacture these boats and they deliver them throughout. So he has been all over the world delivering these luxury yachts, to their orders. So now he has started a program here where he's getting young people to sail. So, and these people, they come all over the country, and they a month ago, they ran a competition. It's referred to as a regatta, so it's a competition where you had, of about 7 boats, sailing boats. You had, half of the participants there were kids from Khayelitsha, Gugulethu, and so forth, which then dispels this thing that our people are not interested. Now, your question was, how then do we coordinate with other departments?
Before we jump into that,
yes.
Let's do this, DDG. Let me line these callers quickly. We're going to go back to that question. Okay. I just don't want them to be holding on for a bit too long. And I believe we've got Spusiso on the line. Spusiso from Mamelodi.
Yes, how are you, bro?
Thank you so much for calling in. I'm doing very well. What's your question or comment?
Yeah, I just need to comment here. It was a great speech, I must say, but I just want to ask the DPG to help us here. As commuters, we sometimes struggle using public transport, specifically taxis. It was a good a good thing to hear the minister saying he is taking out the moving coffins, as he puts it. However, we then find a complaint from these taxi operators that most of the time we have this thing bayibiza ngokuthi angazi bayibiza lento leyo ukuthi babathathela ama taxi those
impounding.
Traffic officers, whereby they take all this, they pound taxis because bathi abanama permit. And those taxis, when you look at them, are brand new taxis. Some of them, they've been operating for quite a while, but they are still on a good shape. However, they are Baba Bimbele ukuthi banga operate in a way, and it's in a way affecting us as commuters. Can maybe they find a way to release these permits? Because what I know is that most taxis, they don't have operating permits. Can they maybe try this year, as we move to the new budget, and work around this issue of the permits for the taxis, so that if Benzalente, they are pounding taxis, taking taxis, but bangalo, affecting that as my commuters. Then number two, if maybe the minister can organize, or the DDG can help us speak to the leadership there, that they must organize maybe a public transport summit or imbizo, whereby we can come and sit together with the leadership and together with the operators, so that we can raise our frustrations, they raise their frustrations, and government raise what is it that they need to do in order to comply, so that we can all move smoothly and participate into this beautiful economy of our country.
Thank you so much, David. Beg your pardon, it's actually Spusiso
Sure.
all the way from Mamelodi. I really thank you, sir. Let's take David Oleja Ali Zebediela. David from ZB. Okay, I think we've lost the David there for a bit. Okay, let's go back, DDG, to the question that you were trying to answer to, and then we'll come back to these ones here.
Yeah.
Okay, here's David. Let's take David quickly. David, good evening to you, sir. David, can you hear me? All right, we're going to leave David for now. DDG, let's just move on with that question that you wanted to highlight.
Yes. Then I think our cooperation with other departments, particularly of education, I think it's given. So we're working very closely. There is a national cadet program that is coordinated by the Department of Higher Education, and we also have the South African Maritime Institute, which is based at the University of Port Elizabeth, Nelson Mandela. So, so that connects the work that that is done by the colleges. Remember that we've got public colleges here in the Cape. We've got the Cape Peninsula of Technology, University of Technology, and in Durban we've got the DUT, which is a Durban University of Technology. So these are colleges that provide seafarer education and training. But in addition to that, there are quite a number of other private entities that provide education. But it is important for the public to just be mindful and make sure that before they enroll their kids in these programs, that particularly for the private training institutions, that they must verify whether their material is accredited by the South African Maritime Safety Authority, which is our agency responsible for the certification and training of seafarers.
Right. Yeah. Now, here's a question that came from Facebook now, DDG. We've got Anele Nkoi. And Anele, as you were talking about the National Shipping Company, Anele says, on that particular issue, can't we use Transnet Port Terminals, which is a division of Transnet Group? That, is it something that we can look into?
Well, I think Anele will understand that TPT is an operator. So it handles the movement of goods between the ship and the port facility. So there would not necessarily be such but obviously they handle shipping lines because
Yes.
with all the containers that come through ports, these are handled by by TPT.
Right.
Which is a public company at this stage. But the transport company that the maritime the shipping company we're referring to would be a company that would secure, even interact with the terminal operators in terms of the movement of goods into and out of port.
All right. And then Lungisa Miyataza from Facebook as well. Lungisa says, look, we need our own shipping companies like MSC, for instance. Are we heading towards that type of setup?
With a national shipping company, then that's because the national shipping company would have national shipping lines, would have actual companies that would be that will own ships to then move these cargoes. But it then plays a much bigger role because, for instance, in the mining sector, the mining charter already says 40% of transport, maritime transport, must be sourced locally.
40%.
Yeah, about 40%. Now, South Africa cannot provide that 40% because we don't have ships at the moment. But the step so the step is to form the national shipping company, and the national shipping company would then procure vessels in the form of charter in the sector. You hire ships to carry cargoes. So that national shipping company would then be the facilitator of those activities. Yes, indeed, we're having a national carrier because of the commodities that we are able to move. Because all what we have to do is to change the Incoterms, referred to as a technical term called Incoterms, which really refers to whether, as the seller of commodities, would you provide transportation to the customer, or the customer will fetch its goods. So it's at the moment South Africa is using what is referred to as a free on board, FOB, which means that the buyer provides transport and insurance. But South Africa, for us to build our own shipping industry, is to change that around to sell our goods CIF, which is cost, insurance, and freight.
Okay.
Which means that the mining houses, when they sell their coal, they must sell a package, door to door. So meaning that when we want to buy South African coal, we must offer to you as the buyer that we'll move it for you. So that's all what it takes.
Okay.
So in that way, we'll then be building our shipping industry, and that's what the Comprehensive Maritime Transport Policy says.
Right.
But there will be day one of the national company where it will not necessarily have ships, but it would have cargo to be moved. So they would then hire the vessels. I think then it will then grow its portfolio. So the strategy would therefore avoid the current challenge we are experiencing, where the South African flag is being taken as a secondary flag. The vessels that we may be having on our register today do not carry the sole South African flag. They carry what is called the primary flag, and the South African flag becomes a secondary flag. So it's catchiest.
Yeah. How does that work? This is the first that I'm hearing about this, really. So we manufacture them. If I'm getting you right, DTG, we manufacture them, but yet when we send them out to, let me say, the purchaser, they don't necessarily carry our flag. Is that what you say?
Okay. The maritime industry is complex.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. What I referred to,
like
what I referred to you, where we are number 2, is on the luxury boats,
like your yacht.
yachts. That's
the,
what
like
that's,
the one that I have.
Exactly.
No,
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 that's
I
not good.
don't. I don't. No, I don't. I don't. I don't.
No, but you know, I
I'm
think.
dreaming of one.
But you know what? We've got rich South Africans. They may not even know that they can afford a yacht, and that this country manufactures luxury yachts. So
But
we
like-
invite them.
wow.
We invite them in October. There is going to be an international boat show which South Africa hosts. It's here in Cape Town.
Wow.
Maybe they can afford a yacht.
Because
They don't know.
I mean, those yachts, like those shows, for instance, they held in Dubai. I know of Dubai being the primary actually place where these things are happening. I never knew that. Wow,
Exactly. We
okay.
are the leaders. So those are different kind of boats. That's just for leisure.
Yes.
Okay. But for cargo ships, we don't manufacture. For the cargo ships, we don't manufacture. But beside the boat building sector, we do have a shipping. We do have a shipbuilding industry in South Africa. That's another category because all the vessels that are ordered by the Navy, they are manufactured in South Africa. So orders have either have gone to SA Shipyards, which is based in Durban, or they come to Damen Shipyards here.
yes.
So we manufacture those boats, and to deal with where either they would be patrol boats or multi-purpose vessels, and some. I think there's a very strong customer base in West Africa. There are many orders that go up there. So that's the boat building industry, because we do, in addition to the boat building yards, we've got the ship building yards. But those ships at building yards at the moment, they have not manufactured cargo ships. In the world, they are the leading cargo vessel builders is Republic of Korea in South Korea, the Germans, and Chinese, and others, if I may use that term. So, but with the national shipping company and with the steel that we have in this country,
Yes.
and with our strong shipbuilding industry, so it would then mean that we can manufacture our own ships. And then in terms of the comprehensive maritime transport policy, is that we would promote vessels, and the vessels built in South Africa will be incentivized. So, so the issue of the flag, remember that one of our strategy up till now has been to attract ships on the South African register. Now, the industry has been responding because we have provided some incentives that is tax-free and that they can take their profits without any deductions and so forth, and that if they buy spares here, they pay in foreign currency, and we don't charge them any tax. Now, so they've registered, but they have not registered in South Africa as primary flag. So they will come because our register allows South African flag to be a second register. So a vessel will come all the way from with a Panamanian flag, if I may use that, or Maltese flag, or Japanese flag. So they will come, and some will register them as a second register. So the South African flag would only be used when that ship enters South African waters. But as it leaves, it will then go to the primary flag. And that's not what, we're like second citizens. That's not what that's not the ultimate goal that we want. So now, with a comprehensive maritime transport policy, building on the national shipping company, we would then be able to attract real South African vessels carrying the proud South African flag on their vessels.
Let's talk about something that the minister's spoken about as well earlier. He mentioned, he said, single transport regulator. When he said that, I wondered whether he was talking what type of transport sector, or does it encompass all the transport sectors that we have in South Africa, this STR?
Yes. It's called in government, it's called STEM. I think the single transport regulator indeed is currently, it was approved by Cabinet to proceed to Parliament. So it's a new bill that would create a single transport regulator. So it would, at the moment, the most successful economic regulator in transport today is the Ports Regulator of South Africa.
Wow.
Which is in terms of established in terms of the Ports Act of 2005.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the success of that model, government has seen value in it, and we have been engaged in consultations internally with all departments with an interest in transport to develop this new omnibus transport regulator.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, indeed, South Africa would be seeing, once it has passed Parliament, a new creation of a single transport regulator. So what it would then mean is that it would then replace the ports regulator for ports, but it will come up with, I think, learning from what the ports regulator of South Africa has been doing. I mean, very interestingly, the ports regulator, one of the things that in the stimulus package of the president, there was a call for reduction of doing business in South Africa. Because some of the things, the reason why you would have some of your commodities very expensive is because of the cost of doing business in South Africa.
Okay.
So the ports regulator, I think, has responded to that and was able to reduce quite drastically the cost of doing business in the ports. So the transport sector regulator would continue in that trajectory and be able to be a regulatory mechanism, particularly on economic, to help grow the South African economy.
Let's look at, just for a bit, let's look at aviation, for instance. Do you think the same principles will be applied, more or less in that sector as well?
At the moment, aviation, they've got what is called the regulatory committee. So there is some form of economic regulation in aviation. Mm. So with the single transport regulator, yes, indeed, it would cover all the sectors of transport. And I think that's what, I think it's being, this legislation is being seen, government is highly committed in progressing this regulation, as it would really help to deal with the challenges faced by our economy today.
All right. It has gone almost 29 minutes after 7 o'clock, and it's almost time for us to say goodbye. But one thing that I would like the DDG to comment on is what the minister mentioned earlier when he spoke about entities without standing boards and CEOs. Which is a big one, that one, the DGG. Tell us about it.
No, first of all, I just need to say here that
yes.
I'm sure that my colleagues in the department, more especially those that deal with public transport,
yes,
and I'm sure that you would consider inviting them in
Absolutely.
the future, because
Absolutely.
I have crossed over to their areas of expertise, and I may not have addressed all the issues in the manner that they would have addressed them.
They're quite vast.
Anyway, more especially dealing with the public transport, but I'm sure that there will be that opportunity. Yes, indeed, the minister came quite strongly and committed in resolving the current challenge, where because of the elections, so there was a delay in appointing the boards. Just that it happened that with the coming in of the new administration, the sixth administration, most of the board's terms of office was coming to an end.
Yes.
So which therefore means that the minister has to prioritize that. Remember that the Department of Transport, the minister is responsible for about 12 agencies, and therefore I think he has committed to ensuring that in the 100 days, and it's going to be within less than 100 days, that all the boards without all the entities without the boards would have them appointed. I can just also confirm that indeed, I think we have seen in the few months that all the boards where there are vacancies there were adverts. But what the minister said today in terms of how he would configure the new boards is that I think he has spoken quite strongly that it's no longer going to be the recycling.
No, he did
No
say.
more recycling. Young people,
Yes.
because we want to build the country of the future. Young people are going to feature quite prominently in that board. Women, because in women you have all the solutions that are going to feature quite prominently in those boards. So, indeed, this is not business as usual. Minister Mbalula is serious in taking this department, in taking the sector forward by installing boards that are current, that have energy.
Yeah.
Because I think it was the deputy minister who refers to Madam Makatsi, who referred to that we need to run if we are not flying. So
Yes.
I think the minister then, I think he would really be putting into place not only the boards. I think he also referred to appointment of the Director General of the department. We have not had the Director General for quite some time, and he has, among other priorities, the filling up of the vacancy of the Director General of the department.
Right. That was the voice of the Deputy Director General coming from the Department of Transport, handling issues that's got to do with maritime. And to a great extent, we pushed him a little bit, to touch on these other areas as well. And I think he did absolutely well. Thank you so much, Bamunduli, for your contribution this evening. We really appreciate it. I believe it's going to be still a hectic night for you guys. You've got an event that you need to attend to, so let's not take much of your time. But I really thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right. So that's how we come to the end of this broadcast for this evening. Thank you so much for having joined us. Who's doing our telecommunications as well as sound engineering this evening. I really like to thank you, sir, for the wonderful job that you've done. Sam Munaring. Brasam is our media liaison contact that we've been talking to for the whole week, trying to put this show together. We really thank you so much, Brasam, for your wonderful job that you've done as well. Pule Mahamotsi. Pule is making sure that you're seeing the visuals on Facebook and YouTube as it happens, and this is one of many. In fact, we have not done this before. We've done it Kasona, but this time around we're bringing it with the phone-in programs that we're having. So thank you so much, Mr. Mahamotse, for the wonderful job that you've done. From myself, Stoholo Sabapedil Mantebele, Kekarabolans. Let's meet again next time. Ciao for now.